I think this is going to be a very tricky video for me to make as I'm stepping into an easily set off minefield, and understandably so. Gamers around the world have been burned, scorned, taken advantage of by companies that they trusted, or even companies coming on the scene. So microtransactions, or MTX in this case, can be a very tricky topic for a lot of players for a lot of different reasons. So it's with that respect that this video is actually being set up upon by two other videos by Kira, and even Asmongold's reaction to KiraTV's video. Kira's video called Creating Problems, Selling Solutions, New World, in which that he goes on to point out that New World even reduced the rested experience in a previous patch 6 months ago, and is now talking about selling rested experience boosters to the player base. Now, I want to be very clear up front. I agree with a lot of the points that both Kira and Asmongold make in regards to microtransactions, to boosts, and to games, but to provide, and hopefully my goal here is to provide solutions, potential solutions that the New World devs can actually implement. I'm not seeing a lot of solutions being touted out there on the internet, and maybe you have the best solution possible, and I'm sorry, I just haven't seen it. So if you have your own ideas, you can always let me know. I'd love to read them. We can probably talk about this as a follow-up topic in player feedback if it warrants that, if there's some really good ideas out there. But I want to present some of the things that I see in other games working really well. But I also kind of want to, I guess, point out something I really disagree with, especially in KiraTV's original video, talking about how gamers, players, back in the day had 9-to-5 jobs, and yet they still played and were able to enjoy these games. That is true. That is still true today. One of the things that exists back then and exists today is RMT, and that actually is a part of it. That's actually one of the things that I wish they would have spoken about more. It's easy to sit here and kind of focus in on the company that's making the game profiting from selling things, and I don't like boosters. I don't think that they should be in these kind of games, and that's why I'm going to hopefully present some systems that I see working in a couple of different games, talk about those here in this video. But RMT has always been a thing that has plagued the MMORPG, and I think that point is kind of missed. It's easy to say that yes, people were playing that, but people buy from RMT even still today, but even more so back then. So I don't think it's a fair assumption to think that people were working like they work today, and they weren't spending money. I think they were. I don't think that the systems were open about it. In fact, it was against the terms of service, but I would venture to bet because those services existed, those wouldn't exist if there weren't people to buy them. And that's kind of the counterpoint to, yeah, I'm sure that people were working 9-to-5 and playing those games and enjoying those games. And I'm sure there was a handful of some of them, like there are today, purchasing things for real money. And so the concept of the microtransaction, I think, even dates back to video games, all the way back to the arcades, paying quarters for lives and all of that. So at least from my perspective, I actually don't ever remember a time of video games that didn't have some form of microtransactions. They've gotten egregious, over aggressive, predatory, absolutely. But also, when we look at the past, we tend to kind of permit things that we might not have permitted today. And so when we look at World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, Guild Wars 2, PSO2, ESO, all of these different systems, they all have things working for them. What they do have is establishment of trust. They have established either some kind of sunken cost, or if nothing else, a gamer can trust that their value is being received and they're getting value out of that purchase. And that's where New World and how they've currently handled it, it's kind of good that they've gone quiet from their kind of Twitter responses, because the only thing that they can do is show us what they are doing as opposed to telling us, because we don't really know them. We don't trust them for the most part. We don't know what the store A looks like. We don't know what items that they're going to add in. That's why when people show off a store on day one from any kind of game, even in an alpha or a beta, these are games of change. Things can change. Look at World of Warcraft as a great example. I mean, heck, I even just bought a mount in Final Fantasy XIV as a part of the whole FanFest celebration for Endwalker. Yeah, that was awesome. I'm glad I had that opportunity, but I am also somebody who adamantly believes that all the things in the cash shop should be somehow acquirable by in-game, even if it was insanely rare. But that's just me. So that's kind of the point that I wanted to make at the start of the video before we dive into potential solutions as presented by other games, and obviously get your guys' thought. I just think that if we're going to look towards the past, if we're going to remember the past, we need to remember all of the past, especially if we're using that past to justify some action in the present. That can be very difficult. It can take a lot more energy than typically we all have time for. Obviously, we're very busy people, in modern society. So sometimes it's just easier to say, oh yeah, it was better back then. But I would submit that, yeah, some things might have been better. Some things might have been worse. But at the end of the day, what's important is that we take this information and we try to inform the devs of what we want, because if New World is a good game, and I say if because at the end of the day, if they deliver a good game, I think gamers will be happy to support it. I personally wish the subscription model would come back and be the model. That in and of itself, I think, is the fair model that kind of puts players all on the even playing ground. But we even see now with subscription-based games that they still have cash shops supporting them. And whether you like the game or like the company, it can actually color code how you feel about their cash shop. So it isn't a one-to-one. You could say World of Warcraft's cash shop sucks because maybe you're a Final Fantasy fan, or maybe as a WoW fan, you're like, man, look at those guys, like with their cash shop, they can't even get the stuff from the game with in-game money. How ridiculous is that? They're just being required to spend money. So like there's an argument either way, but I think now, or at least hopefully I've kind of talked about like how I view those two videos. And again, you should go check them out. Links will be in the description of this video, so you can go watch them and you can tell me whether I'm missing the point or, anyway, at the end of the day, this is always a discussion. So I look forward to your thoughts. But now let's I'm going to kind of shift into what I hope to see, what I think the New World devs need to take into account. And this is just my perspective. And as always, be sure to send your feedback to the devs via either Reddit or make your own video. And if you do, let me know. I'd like to check it out as well. So let's go ahead and dive into that. Now, what Asmongold nailed, like right on the start, is that when you bring in cash shops, you obviously have an incentive for the developers to put some of the best and coolest looking things in the cash shop so people will buy them. And like, I don't have a solution for them. I don't have a solution outside of saying like, man, bring back the subscription MMORPG. I wish that would have won. But like I said, I want to kind of highlight how we go from here. This is the reality that we all live in. If we want new and better MMORPGs, and if we don't allow them to live and to grow, we're always going to be kind of stuck in the past anyway. I think in a way, there's some level, not the complete sense of it, but there's some level us as gamers have, in terms of, kind of culpability and holding back the things that we say that we want. And a lot of that has to do with finances, with the development. And we can have that argument, to the moon and back, and maybe we should. But I want to kind of highlight a couple things here in terms of the trading post within Guild Wars, and also splash in a little bit of Phantasy Star Online too. In PSO2, like even in Guild Wars, they have the Black Lion chest that you have keys that you can use to unlock and get an assortment of really exciting goods. In PSO2, and even here, you can actually sell those things to other players. You can put those up for trade right now. If I go to the trading post and I hit sell items, I've got 7 Black Lion chests that I can go ahead and sell instantly. Let me go ahead and do that. Boom. It's sold. Somebody has purchased those and they can open them up with the keys that they have. And now it's not clouding up my inventory. Maybe I didn't get a lot. Maybe there was something better in there. But at the end of the day, player trade, I think, is the absolute critical aspect, because let's say, for example, here in the store, I wanted to go ahead and pick up some boosters. Guild Wars 2 has boosters. Again, I don't like boosters, but let's just say I want to purchase them, and then I want to put them up for sale. If as a player, they get some boosters as a part of a chest, and maybe you don't want to use them, and you were able to sell them to other players who could use them or earn them throughout the game, then they're just a commodity. Then they're just a commodity in the game that makes your coin and the player economy even more important, because maybe that's something that you get lucky or you have the ability to find and farm up, and you get to choose. The boosters themselves shouldn't be limited to any player, right? Like the idea here, or the fear here, is that the only way to get a booster is you have to spend money. And in the reality is that maybe boosters flow from a wide range of content, and then players can choose to use them or even trade them with other players, and thus continuing to cycle back to that currency. That's one of the things I do like about PSO2, is that you can play that game completely for free. And what you can end up doing is that you get, if you want something, if you want a piece of the fashion that they put so much work into, well, let's say a player has that and they don't want it, they can put it up for sale. So you can actually purchase it with in-game money, keeping in-game money valuable, having a purpose for that at all times. And so Guild Wars 2, I think, is a good example, especially when it comes down to the currency exchange, right? So gems are the premium currency. I can take essentially gold and buy gems with that. So if I've got 250 gold, or it looks like either way, I haven't actually used the currency exchange personally, but you can use this to be able to purchase I can purchase 400 gems with 131 gold. I have 150. Maybe I want 400 gems. Maybe I don't. Or if I want, I can go ahead and use gems to buy gold. It's acting as that currency exchange. Guild Wars 2 doesn't have a subscription model. New World doesn't have a subscription model. PSO2 has an optional subscription model. At the end of the day, there's got to be something that the system has that is fair. I think player trade is fair. I think as long as the items that you get, whether it's from their theoretical battle pass, that it's from anything that you can get in the game, if it can be put up on the market. So let's say you don't specifically, one of those, want it, you can just go ahead and put it out there, and you can use that currency to use for other things. I think trade is the most important thing. When it comes to modern MMORPGs, I just honestly feel that we've gotten a lot away from player trade, and I'd like to see that brought back. I'd like to see that if the New World devs are listening to this post, that they go take a hard look at what they've got here. If you want to do some things, honestly, put players first. And I think if players are first in your game, if that's the mindset that you have, then you're going to end up having a better game, and you're going to have a game that players will champion. I think at the end of the day, what players are afraid of the most is that change that could happen. I think what we'll see no matter what is, let's say the devs come out and they fix it. They say, hey, we've got this. We've heard you. We're making these changes. Inevitably, there's going to be some people saying, well, you thought of this idea and it was a bad idea. You didn't implement it, but you thought about it and we found out about it. I can't trust you. To them, I would say if a dev listens to you and you don't come back and give them a second chance, you're only hurting your own opinion, your own voice in that case. That probably could be up for debate individually, but at the end of the day, if they're going to say, hey, I'll play Final Fantasy XIV as soon as they add in orcs. And if Final Fantasy XIV adds in orcs, and then you're like, well, I'm not going to play it. If I was the dev, I'd be like, well, let's just ignore that guy from now on, because he said what he needed in this game. We gave him what he needed, and then he says, nah, or you keep moving the goalposts. But trust is something that's going to be built up with time. New World, the only way they can build up trust is to deliver quality content, deliver a quality game, and not, ruin the players financially. I have no problem with New World wanting to make money, at all, because if the game is good, I think it'll be a game that I'd happily support. So I think New World devs need to ask themselves some seriously hard questions in terms of their monetization strategy. I think if they open it up to encourage player trading, allowing for items to be purchased and sold on the markets, that helps combat RMT in a way, because that trade in and of itself means that a player can come in, say, hey, looks like people really want to do certain things. One of the nice things that I'm not showing it here on screen now, but Guild Wars 2 has the ability to list items to buy. So you can say, I would like to buy some boosters, and I'm willing to pay 500 gold for that. Someone could say, hey, that's actually a lot of money. Let me go ahead and buy that. And I can have that instantly sell. So if they didn't want to go with a premium currency to money exchange, basically kind of acting as the WoW time token, don't know why I'm stuttering a little bit here, there's your solution right there. Then you could decide if you want to grind it out and purchase these fancy items from the game, thus bringing value to the quests, thus bringing value to crafting. As long as these systems are integrated, I think that's going to be a very healthy thing. So hopefully the New World devs hear that and understand that aspect when it comes to all things in the game itself. It's a tricky situation, I'm not going to lie. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to leave it at that. If you're new here, welcome. I like talking about MMORPGs, multiplayer games, heavily into Final Fantasy and Phantasy Star. New World is a game that I'm really excited. Guild Wars 2, as you can see, is a great game. I highly recommend it. If you guys like the content here, hit that like button and hit subscribe. If you didn't, let me know. You can always sound off what you think I could do a better job of in the comments. And if you feel like going the extra mile, we always have the join button. You can join for as little as $1 a month if you so choose. Me and my family thank you for all your support, whether it is just watching a video or if it is going an extra mile in that case. But I'm going to wrap up. Thanks, guys, for being here. Hopefully you have a good day. I hope to see you in my next one, but until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.